it is Dominic Mantuano with the Connecticut Burns Care Foundation, and welcome to another edition of the Champions Podcast. This is the April version, and we are so glad that you can join us today. As always, we're going to have special guests for you, many surprises, a lot of information, and today will be no different. Allow me today to introduce to you a very close friend of the CBCF camp. He is Mr. Stephen Lupinacci. He also has a Connecticut Firefighter Charitable Foundation, which gives to not only us, but to other foundations as well. He's been involved with the campers up at camp for many years, and he's here to tell us all about it today. Welcome, Steve.
Dominic, how are you?
Oh, well, now that you're here, I'm doing much better. How you been?
I'm good, thank you.
That's phenomenal. Hey, Steve, you know, you have so much. I mean, I'm new to this game. I've only been in this since October, but you, all together, how long have you been involved with the CBCF?
Almost 30 years.
Holy, jump up and sit down.
Yeah.
I got a long way to catch you.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I know we got a lot to talk to, so let's start from the beginning. I want to know a little bit about you first. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about who you are, where you come from, and we'll take it from there.
Grew up in Stamford and ended up right now we live in Shelton. I'm married, 2 children. Became a firefighter in 1987, town of Stratford, did 26 and a half years
Wow.
in the department. I retired in 2013 and became involved with the Connecticut Burns Care Foundation in the camp back in 1992.
Being a firefighter, tell us, how did you get involved with the CBCF?
So in 1991, probably, like I said, I think I got involved. I'm almost sure I was involved in 1992, 93.
Mm-hmm.
2 firefighters in our department, Tom Fennell and Freddie Worth, got me involved in the burn camp.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about. I asked them, I said, hey, how can I get involved in that? So, well, we need somebody to work in the kitchen. So in the kitchen, I worked the first year in the kitchen. I guess they didn't like me because they said they threw me out. But that's because we all work together, you know how firefighters are, bust each other's stones. So, and from there I ended up, working in a group. I primarily worked with the senior boys for a number of years.
Great.
And was in charge of the senior boys, and slowly, kind of progressed to where I ended up becoming the camp director back in 2000, and did that for 19 years.
Wow.
Retired, just like, back in 2019, decided that was enough. It's kind of like being in a mafia. Once you think you're out, they sink you right back in again.
They bring you right back in.
But I'm the chairman of the burn camp, so I oversee things that are being put together for the camp, and I was asked to do that. I didn't want to leave the new camp director, Tommy Smith, who's wonderful, coming into camp and trying to figure things out, because there's a lot of things that have to occur in order for this camp to happen behind the scenes.
But I got to tell you, that's really wonderful. So many years of dedication and service to the children. I visited the camp, and I saw in you and everybody there who ran it, because I always tell this story every time we have a guest, that it changed my life.
We have a new staff that comes in every year, and we run a new counselor orientation, separate from our regular orientation with the staff.
Okay.
And we tell them, listen, this is not like going to a regular camp. Kids, burn injuries are very visual, right? There's some scarring. If a new counselor has an issue, we work with them as a support mechanism for them. So, and yes, first year counselors, they find it very, some of them find it very hard to accept that circumstance. So they're the ones that have to make that decision as to whether or not they want to attend again next year, and we'll evaluate that, and say after camp we'll meet as Tommy and myself and the management team will say, okay, let's look at the whole staff, who worked out, who didn't work out, and then politely have that conversation with that staff member. And so obviously the camp is all about the kids, right?
It is.
And we want to have the kids have a great time.
Right.
So I've been doing this for 30 years, right? And I really don't see their burn injuries anymore. I just see a child who wants to come into the camp and just have a 1 week great camping experience. And by the end of the week, I just want to go home. Sad. So,
Because they're kids.
Because they're kids. They're just kids. And when that happens, then you know you've done a good job. So
that's it.
That's
I
what
hear
it's all
you.
about.
So, Steve, let me ask you, because there are obviously going to be a lot of people now watching this. It's going out all over the world. Anybody can now pick this up. There might be a lot of people who want to get involved with us in one way or another. So, two-pronged question. One, tell me, what is the CBCF looking for in counselors and staff? And then the second, kids 8 to 18 can come to this camp, but tell us a little bit more about that also. So start with the counselors and staff.
So what was I looking for staff members in camp? First of all, it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
This is about the kids in camp.
Absolutely.
All right. And second, leave your ego at the gate.
Yeah.
If you're looking to put our camp name on your resume, you're not the person for this camp.
Absolutely.
That's what I used to look for.
So, Steve, my next question to you is, I know kids 8 to 18 can come to camp, but what is the criteria? What are we, what are we looking for in a camper?
Well, a camper is a burn survivor.
Okay. Yep.
The camp, the foundation, the staff, the management team, we don't evaluate the children that come to our camp.
Right.
Our foundation, this foundation, Connecticut Burns Care Foundation, Children's Burn Camp, our kids come from burn centers up and down the East Coast. Primarily Shriners out of Boston. Over 50% of our children come from Shriners, but that's because we get children that come from overseas that are being flown in and being treated at Shriners. We have burn centers down the East Coast that will send their pediatric patients up to Shriners. So I believe, and I could be wrong on this number, there's 10 burn centers roughly up and down the East Coast that are affiliated with our foundation, and we have a very good relationship with them, a great network who will reach out to their young burn survivors and offer them the opportunity to come to camp. They'll fill out the application, and the hospital will evaluate that and then recommend the children to come to camp. We don't turn any children away.
That's right.
But they'll do the recommendations for us. We do have children and parents that contact the Connecticut Burns Care Foundation directly, and we do have a social worker and staff members that will evaluate that
Absolutely.
application.
So, Steve, in your years of experience working at the CBCF camp, what has been your experience with those children, with the relationship between the counselors, the staff, and the children? What's that camaraderie? What's that?
Well, the first thing is, you asked me before about a counselor, right?
Right,
What makes
right.
a counselor? You have to be a special person to be able to take a 1-week vacation of your own personal time and not get paid to do it,
Right.
right? Because nobody in camp gets paid.
Nope.
So you have to be a special person in order
Absolutely.
to do that, right? Our camp is comprised of on the staffing side of adult burn survivors, nurses from the burn centers that I talked about, firefighters.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, as firefighters, we get right down into the dirt with them. You say like you're 30 years old. I'm 16 at heart. The relationship between the firefighters and the young burn survivors are very, very close, very tight, because a lot of these children have gotten burned in house fires or different types of emergencies in which they relate very closely to the firefighters as being the ones that help them out.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a very big positive thing in our camp. As far as the kids, we get kids from all over. We get them from all over North America. We get kids from all over the world, basically.
Right.
And the communication issue is a little tough when the kids come in and they can't speak our language.
Fluent,
but
right.
Firefighters work with them very closely.
We have our own language.
We have our own language. So it makes for a fun time. It really
It does. Well, Steve, let me ask you. Let's change gears for a second. You have your own foundation,
Right.
and again, I don't know where you find the time, but it's heroes like you that uplift people who need uplifting. And in return, I have witnessed in the short amount of time that I've known you so far, nothing in return. And if I could be more like that, I'd be a better person. So tell us about your foundation and a little bit about what you do with that.
All right, so backing up as to why I do this. Back in 1997, there was a fire in our town.
Okay.
We were on duty. There were 3 young kids that were on a porch, and they were throwing, I believe what it was like, lighted napkins at near an open container of gasoline.
Oh, wow.
And it obviously exploded, and there was a fire, and there were 2 of the 3 boys got severely burned. And there was no mechanism in our town of Stratford or in the area to take care of the families. At that time, they went to Bridgeport Hospital Burn Center.
Right.
Their pediatric patients, they were airlifted to Shriners.
Right.
There were no mechanisms there to support the family financially. So the firefighters at Stratford got together, and we decided, hey, let's start a foundation that we can help raise money to support the burn camp and help families in need. So in 1999, we received our 501c3, and we've been active ever since.
Wonderful.
We raise a ton of money for the burn camp.
Yep, you sure do.
Raise money for the burn center. And to believe it or not, the fire that ensued, the 2 boys ended up at our camp.
Okay.
And one of them, I'll mention his name, TJ, was really like a son to me. So I was able to witness and be involved with TJ growing up from the time he was injured to the time he became an adult. He loved fishing. TJ was a fisherman. He kind of ran our fishing program at the camp, and he was a mentor to the kids. And unfortunately, we lost TJ a couple of years ago, and that hurt a lot to this day because we were so close. But for me, I always know that his memory and his legacy is always going to be in that camp, always.
This is why I love coming through that door every day.
Right.
Because now you just shared something with me so special that this is what makes me know that this is the greatest thing I've ever done.
Right.
And that's wonderful. So, Steve, as we wrap it up, what would be the lasting impact that the CBCF camp experience gives to you?
Well, for me, having been doing this for 30 years, it's a consistent thing in the camp. You see a child come into camp who struggles with the camp because they feel like they're the only ones that have this injury, but then they see others in the camp that have suffered the same type of injury, and that makes them grow. For me, personally, we all complain about things in life, right? The price of milk, the price of gas going up, and all these things, and you get mad about it. But for me, you do a week in this camp with these kids, all those problems are irrelevant because here you have these young heroes who have to go through who have gone through this injury, and then you see these kids grow from young children to adults, and you see how successful they are. That's what this camp's all about.
Remember, camp is from July 10th through the 17th this year. All the information is on our website at www.ctburnsfoundation.org. We are looking forward to it. Call us here if you need any information. All our applications are on the website. And again, I want to thank Steve for everything he has done for this camp, for us, being my friend, making me a better person. I can't thank you enough. Thanks for taking the time, and I hope this won't be the last time we see you.
I'll be around.
Again, Dominic Mantuano, I'm the Executive Director. Have a great day.